So last week, I took the Pac-12 to task and Stuart Mandel's defense of the Pac-12 to task because I think the Big Eight, with a couple other teams added, can be just as competitive actually on the field as the Pac-12 and what they've shown to be over the last 5 to 10 years. Right on the heels of that, the Pac-12 went out in week 0 and had an embarrassing showing. Not actually in terms of the game on the field, but what was happening in the stands. And we're going to dive into that today and what exactly it means and how it exemplifies some of the issues that the Pac-12 has relative to even the irate 8. Welcome in. I'm John Kurtz. On this YouTube channel, I talk college football every single day. That means right now conference realignment every single day. I try to give the Big 12 a voice when there's not much of one nationally right now for the league. Like and comment the video. It really does help me out a lot. So, check out this picture. We're going to start right off with a bang as we get this picture of the Rose Bowl for the season opener. The historic Rose Bowl. Think of all the great things that have happened at this place. Vince Young reaching out for the pylon. And yet this is what it looked like when UCLA laced them up against Hawaii over the weekend. This is the first home game in 637 days for the UCLA Bruins. Bruins fans have had to wait 2 years, 637 days to see their team play, and this was the response. The announced attendance, by the way, 39,982, which, I'm going to say that there was a little bit of fudging on that number. I'm thinking, like 5,000 people here? Under 10, certainly for UCLA. And this is a UCLA team that's expected to be pretty good this year. They got a first-place vote in the Pac-12 South preseason poll. A lot of people. I was corrected on Twitter the other day for taking a shot at Chip Kelly and what he's done as people pointed out to me the improvement that they made last year. So Bruins feel like this is going to be an up-and-coming team. But yet they can't get anybody into the stadium when they have a home game for the first time in 637 days to open up an exciting season. And I know the excuses because I saw them from some Pac-12 media members, and Stuart Mandel was one. Now, he covers college football nationally, but he is based on the West Coast, right? So he was one of many that were kind of caping up for the Pac-12. Here's the excuses that you get. Well, classes haven't started yet. It was 100 degrees outside and a 12:30 kickoff. The COVID restrictions are stronger in California. It's Southern California. There's more to do, and they were playing Hawaii. That's not an exciting opponent. Yada, 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 yada. Okay, so that's the pushback that you get. To which I would say this all just proves that these places are not passionate about college football at all. And on one hand, you just have how sad it is that places that are unbelievably passionate about college football, like Lubbock, Texas, Manhattan, Kansas, Ames, Iowa, Stillwater, Oklahoma, they right now are having to sweat all of this out while UCLA gets to roll out 4,000 fans and feel completely confident about where they are going as it relates to all of this in the future of college athletics. I can't buy all of those excuses. Look, I've been to games where I have absolutely melted to cover and or watch K-State football play. And K-State brings tons of fans. And I know that that's how it is across the Big 12. I've been to games at Ames, Iowa, where I've been sunburned about as bad as I have been in my life, and there were 55,000. Is Ames up to 60 now? Is Jack Trice at 60? There are 55 to 60,000 people screaming their butts off that are there. They will show. And this isn't purely a UCLA problem. You know, I got that pushback as well. Like, hey, look, UCLA's in a different situation than the rest of the Pac-12. Man, look, I was at Stanford in 2016. They opened up the season with K-State. So it's the season opener. Stanford is the number 8 team in the country. Top 10 team, season opener. They have Christian McCaffrey, a Heisman candidate, playing for them, who, by the way, they would complain all the time about, hey, nobody pays enough attention to him. He should have won the Heisman, but he didn't. Well, they couldn't even get their own fans to watch Christian McCaffrey, okay? Because this is the crowd. You're seeing right now the crowd that was at this game. Like, it was pretty empty. In 2019, the Pac-12 was the lowest conference in all of Power 5 football in terms of attendance. They were 11,000 per game behind the Big 12. And yes, I understand Texas and Oklahoma have big stadiums. That contributes to some of that. But we've also seen how much the numbers can be fudged when UCLA is claiming 39,000 at a game where about 6,000 actually attended. It just highlights how stupid conference realignment is. And a lot of the defense around these West Coast schools really centers around, hey, there's so much more else to do out there, different kind of vibe, different kind of environment. But, like, that's the point. And at a certain point, some of that starts to bleed through enough in an era where everybody is getting crazier about college football in the South. Everybody is wild about it in the Midwest. Like, we're kind of moving different directions with all of that right now. And at some point, that's going to have an effect on what's going on with the Pac-12. And they already have a long list of problems. You know, I mean, it's one thing, and I think a lot of us in the Irate 8 have had our moments of being upset with schools like South Carolina, Boston College, like these SEC, ACC schools that are not pulling their own weight, are not better college towns, do not have better facilities than our schools in the Big 12, but yet are going to be fine. But the Pac-12 honestly bothers me more because there's the elitist attitude that comes along with it. Oh, the Olympic sports and blah, blah, blah. And just less fans and less people caring. At least in South Carolina, they're still going to fill up a stadium and people give a bleep, you know? You just don't have the same thing with these schools in the Pac-12 in general. And look, the Big 12 going down a peg, this is another point that I want to make in this video. The Big 12 going down a peg doesn't change the fact that the Pac-12 still has a major list of problems. They're still getting lapped by the SEC and the Big 10 in money, no matter what their next deals wind up being. They're already almost $20 million behind the Big 10 and the SEC per school per year right now in payout. They're $7 million behind the ACC. If we're talking about competition on the field, they have not made the playoffs since 2016. There's nobody in the preseason top 10 this year for the Pac-12. Only 2 playoff appearances overall. I outlined last year, I mean, a league with BYU and Cincinnati, along with the 8 teams left in the Big 12, performed much better in the top 25 than what the Pac-12 actually did. They've not won a national championship since Matt Leinart was rolling around as the quarterback at USC. I mean, that feels like eons ago. And even recruiting, which is something that Stuart Mandel brought up, just 2 recruiting cycles ago, the Pac-12 didn't have anybody in the top 10 and only 1 in the top 20, and that's Oregon. Like, Oregon's the only school consistently recruiting right now. So just because the Pac-12 has a gentleman's agreement, just because they wrote something on a napkin with a couple of other commissioners, doesn't mean that these problems all go away. And I bring all of this up in the context of that UCLA crowd shot just to emphasize all is not well in the Pac-12. This is still a league that's in danger, and this is still a league that has plenty of flaws that can be exploited. And if the Big 12 can add the right teams, there's no reason to suggest that the league can't be just as competitive on the field as the Pac-12 moving forward. The Pac-12 is going to continue to deal with money problems, especially with a fledgling Pac-12 network. They're going to continue to deal with disinterested fan bases. They're going to continue to deal with no national presence in the playoff right now unless something takes a fairly drastic change, and a looming TV deal coming up, which we'll see what happens with all of that, and George Kliavkov, the new commissioner of the league. But, man, I mean, the Pac-12 right now is not doing very well on that front. So as much as the Big 12 is all about instability, and people are going to talk about that a ton, it's not a ton of stability, at least in terms of a clout standpoint for the Pac-12 right now either. And it's easy to forget just how much criticism was coming the Pac-12's way not that long ago, just 2 months ago, before the Texas and Oklahoma thing came up, when they were the league that was being picked on all the time. There are just some really frustrating things about realignment, and the Pac-12 has kind of turned into one of those for me here at this point as we look at what the Big 12 can be in the future. So if I'm the Big 12, I'm going to continue to push to try and be innovative, to add the best schools that I can, and think even if the money is not going to be the same as these Pac-12 schools, we can be just as competitive, if not more, on the field. See what Pac-12 attendance looks like with LSU coming into the Rose Bowl, by the way. See how purple and gold that place gets coming up. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Again, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. I talk college football every single day here, and I talk conference realignment right now every single day here because I aim to give the Big 12 a voice when they don't have much of one nationally. Follow me on Twitter at JLKurtz for up-to-the-minute updates, not only on realignment, but Big 12 football, everything that is going on. And you can find links to all of my other content in the description of this video, so please follow me on all those appropriate channels, and I will talk to you soon.